This for me is the most important group of settings that Hobbywing have made. I don't know who was the guy that really think about it, but he's a genius for sure. This is the feeling that you have on the car and on your setting, let's say, and it can completely change your drive style, your way to drive, your pace on the track. Like really, you can remove seconds on your lap time on these settings here. Hello guys, today I'm here to talk about electronic on two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. For that, I'm gonna divide it in 4 topics, from the less important to the most important for me. I'm gonna use the new app, the new V2 app of Hobbywing, together with the Bluetooth connector. Make sure that you guys have the software updated on your speedo and your connector. Let's go for it. So guys, let's start with the general settings. So I think you guys can see it right here. I think now, no? Okay, now I think it's working. So running mode. Running mode, basically we use always forward with brake, only if you wanna use reverse, if you wanna have like reverse mode, but I don't suggest you to use because it also changes a little bit your brake. But if you are in like on a track and you have no marshal, maybe it will help you on some cases. Max reverse force, you just need to use if you have that reverse mode that you don't really are going to use. Cutoff voltage, guys, this is important for you to don't dump your battery. And I see some guys with the battery like balloon, and this is sometimes because you guys run like 10 minutes and you have your cutoff completely off. I don't suggest you to use. I suggest you to use with the voltage that you don't destroy your battery. But if you guys want to use disable, please make sure that you don't drive more than 5 minutes, and like that you make sure that your battery is not going to be destroyed after a while. ESC temperature and motor temperature. Normally I use disable because I don't want my ESC or my motor to stop, or like because my temperature is too high. So I suggest you to use maybe 125, because it's difficult to arrive on that temperatures, but it's possible if you drive on that conditions that you have like 35 degrees, you know, and you use a lot of your power on your ESC. It's possible you arrive 120 degrees. Hobbywing is able to arrive on that temperature and survive completely without any problem. So if you are racing, please switch it off, because maybe you can arrive on that temperature and you are not going to stop during your race. If you are practicing, make sure you use 125, so you make sure that you don't destroy, or sometimes you have something, you know, stuck on your drivetrain and is like kind of overheating your electronic. So this is kind of important also to use. On the back voltage, it depends on your servo. So if you have a servo 7.4 volts or 6 volts, it depends a lot on what you are using. If you are using 7.4 and you really need the speed and the torque on your servo, use 7.4. If your servo is not able to survive with 7.4, use 6.0, other way you maybe will destroy your servo. Remote off. Remote off is basically for you to be able to switch off your speedo on your radio. So you need to hold the brake for like 6 seconds and you switch it off. This is maybe good to stay on the grid, because you completely forgot it. You stay on the grid, and when Scotty is making the countdown, you hold the brake, and then when you want to start, it's off. So basically, if you are racing, don't use it. If you are on the practice and maybe you want to use it, you can use it, no problem. Sensor mode is only for other motors, not Hobbywing, because Hobbywing is full censored, so use full sensor all the time. Motor rotation is the rotation of your motor. So in like 99% of the case, in two drive and four drive, you need to use CCW, but if your car has a different position on the motor, you can use the other solution, that is CW, and you invert the rotation on your motor. Timing settings. Timing settings are not so difficult. So basically, I normally use on the carpet and on Astro between 6 and 10, and on dirt sometimes I use a little bit lower, between 4 and 6. Boost activation I use RPM. And boost start RPM and boost hand RPM, I use normally the default. I tried to change a little bit and play with it. I didn't really find a big difference with that. Turbo timing is basically the top speed of your car. So the boost, it's the bottom, let's say, bottom middle, and the timing, it's the hand. So it's only basically when you hit full throttle, you have your timing. So basically we are talking about top speed. I normally use between 26 and 35 on carpet. So 26 I will say for Astro, and because the Astro is a little bit bumpy and normally you cannot carry that much speed. And on carpet I use normally between 30, 35, so we can have more top speed because the tracks are like flat, so we can actually have that top speed. On the turbo delay, I don't use instant because sometimes it's kind of too aggressive, and basically on two drive you are maybe going to wheel when you have it. So I like it 0.05, so you have that timing to really hit full throttle, have that small timing, and then enters and kicks the turbo. And 0.01 for me was too slow. Turbo increase rate. It's difficult, and it depends on which driver or which kind of driver you are. So if you are a driver that you are aggressive and you want really to move super fast on the small straights or wherever when you are full throttle, I suggest you to use 21, 24, not more than that. But if you are a smooth driver and you don't like your car so aggressive, I suggest it between 15 and 18. That is what normally I use on Astro and on dirt. And for carpet you can use between 21 and 24. I normally use between 18 and 21. That I feel that is the best combination for the Hobbywing. The decrease rate, it only works basically when you have your turbo kicked in. So it means when you are full throttle and you leave the throttle, and it's how your motor is going to, like, kind of pre-auto brake, let's say. It's kind of how it's going to brake when you are full throttle. So it only works when you are actually full throttle. I find out that on Astro and carpet it works very good between 21 and 24. For dirt, maybe a little bit less, to don't be so aggressive, because on dirt you want like a more smooth car, you know. So I suggest you to use maybe between 18 and 21 maximum. Brake settings. On the brake settings we start with the drag brake. Drag brake, it's a kind of very important setting on your car. So basically on two drive you can actually increase a lot the steering on your car using drag brake. So I would suggest you, if your car is like kind of understeer, you know, and you need more steer, you just need to increase the auto brake, and your car is going to brake a little bit more and just turns better on the corners. So on the carpet, on Astro, when sometimes I need more steering on 180s, I will increase the drag brake to have a little bit more steering. But if you like, imagine if you are in the track that you have a lot of sweepers and you need your car to go free on the corners, I would suggest you to decrease this parameter. So decrease the drag brake and you can have more corner speed, and you don't have that much stress on your car. The maximum brake force, it depends if you are an animal braking or not. So it's your kind of feeling. If you are a guy that really use a lot the brake and you like to destroy your drivetrain on braking, use it 100%. I normally use 87, that is what is the default, and on the radio I use like maybe 40 to 50%, but I know some guys like really a lot the brake and to feel, you know, safe with the brake. Initial drag force is for sure drag brake. Brake rate control. This is basically the feeling of your brake. So if you want it more smooth or less smooth, I normally use 20 because I don't believe that you guys, or at least also I cannot use like the brake more or less, or I use or I don't use. So for that I use 20 because when I brake I want to have immediately that feeling, you know, like immediately when I brake I want my brake to work. So if you reduce this, it will make your brake like kind of a little bit smoother and like less reactive. So I will suggest you to use 20 to be faster using it. The brake curve I use linear. You guys can customize it on the application on the computer. I never did it, and I don't think it's you have any benefit with it. Brake frequency, it's also how aggressive you want your brake. 0.5 I think is way too aggressive. When you brake, your wheels kind of lock immediately. 1 is a little bit smoother, and 2 it's way too smooth. So I find it 1K the best option. And then the brake control, it's kind of the feeling of the brake. So like, if you are that kind of guy that when you go on the straight full throttle, and when you brake, you like your brake super aggressive, but when you go slow, like on the slow speed, you like your brake to be a little bit smoother, you guys need to use linear. If you guys like the brake exactly the same high speed and slow speed, you need to use it traditional. Hybrids, I have no idea what's the difference. I tried, I don't like the feeling. So basically I use always between linear and traditional. So I use most of the times traditional because I like to have the same feeling, high speed and slow speed. On the touring we use a lot linear, but on off-road I find it out that is better traditional. Let's go for the next one. Throttle control. This for me is the most important group of settings that Hobbywing have made. I don't know who was the guy that really think about it, but he's a genius for sure. This is the feeling that you have on the car and on your setting, let's say, and it can completely change your drive style, your way to drive, your pace on the track. Like really, you can remove seconds on your lap time on these settings here. I believe this is the most important group, and I will leave it the throttle rate control to the hand. That for me is the most important, and I will jump for the throttle curve. So throttle curve I use linear. Customize you can guys try, but I don't really believe it has any benefit. Neutral range is basically when you touch the throttle how aggressive it is. I use always 6%. 4% and 8%, I don't really find any benefit on it, so I use always 6%. The coast was made basically for the guys that come from nitro and use the engine super lean, you know, and the engine come on the pit lane like screaming, and basically Hobbywing create these that is give you a little bit of throttle when you remove the throttle. I'm joking guys, no, it's not this. The setting basically give you a little bit of throttle for the guys that have the car like they are driving that weird ratios and the car stop a lot. So basically when you remove the throttle, your car still having a little bit of throttle to don't stop immediately. So this is the coast, so I use 0 because I don't need it. I have the auto brake, so this basically makes the opposite of auto brake. That's why I make the joke about nitro. Drive frequency. This setting here basically is going to change your electronic on the way to make it smoother or more aggressive, but also change your kind of boost and RPM. So basically, as soon as you use more Ks, it will be smoother, less Ks, it will be more aggressive. So I suggest you guys to use on Astro and on carpet to use between 4 and 8K, and for dirt between 12 and 16. And really you will feel a lot of difference because as soon as you use less Ks, you will have more boost or like more torque, let's say, and less RPM. And as soon as you use 12 and 16, you have less torque and more RPM. So your car is going to be smoother and easier to drive on the track. Softening we don't use on off-road because it's kind of weird with the jumps and everything. We use more on the touring, but basically it's like the range, it's how much you want on your throttle. So if you use 10% of your throttle, you decide like 4, 20 or 25, you are going to have 1-2 degrees or 4 or whatever you want to use. You can use until 30 degrees of softening. On off-road I don't use because it's kind of weird with the jumping and everything. When the car is jumping, it's kind of weird, so we only use it on the touring normally. And now I'm going to talk, for me, the most important setting on the Hobbywing that is like for me like cheating. And I will tell you a story, guys. One time I was in one race in UK with Bayer, and Bayer was like dominating the race. I had exactly the same setup as him on the car. I was thinking I had the same setup as him on the speedo, but I wasn't able to keep his pace. I was like on the lap time same fast as him, but he was on the 5 minutes much faster than everyone. And all because of one small jump. We had a kind of a double and we landed on the small, like on a small land, you know, you need to land it perfectly on there. And basically he was landing perfectly every lap. And was because of this setting. This setting is basically controls or give you the feeling of your throttle. So the thing of like, you know, when you are jumping and you are not able to jump every time on the same point, is this setting. It doesn't matter if you have 30 boost or 100 timing, it doesn't matter. If you have this setting perfectly, really believe me, you have all feeling on your speedo. And he was using this setting very well tuned there. So he was able to, it doesn't matter if you have the throttle a little bit more or a little bit less, the jump was always perfect, you know. If you have this setting to aggressive, so let's say if you change it for like 30, your throttle will be more aggressive. If you change it for less, it will be less aggressive. So you will have much more sensibility on your throttle. So, which means it gives you more gap to make the mistake. As you know, we are not machines, so you are not able to use always the same throttle. So when you are going to jump, you know, you are not always able to stay on the same point on the throttle. Sometimes you give a little bit more, sometimes less. If you have this setting way too aggressive, so let's say 25 to 30, you are going to, or you are not going to be, not be able to jump every time on the same point because it's too aggressive, you know, and your electronic have so much power that you are going to jump or too short or too long. If you have these like 20 or 15, you will be able always to jump the same because your throttle looks like it has like 200% and not only 100. It's really crazy. And if you guys use it like 30, please try like between 15 and 20 and you will see that your jumps, your exiting from the corner, you are always going to make the same. And in the end of 5 minutes, it's a huge difference because you stop to make or you do much less mistakes on the jumping and exiting from the corner. So guys, I think you understood that I gave much more importance to the feeling than to the power. And that's basically what you have to keep in mind. So when you go to the track and you are testing, try to have much more feeling than power. Because feeling is what is going to give you more laps on the same lap time. Power, it's making the opposite. It's just making you stressful. It makes your car stressful. It makes more mistakes and it will really, it's like when you have a lot of power in your car, it's like inviting you to make mistakes because you will want to punch it because it's normal. We all want to do that. We want to push the throttle and see the car wheeling and like screaming. It's amazing. It's true on the practice. But if you are racing, you don't want to do that. You want to be the faster. And to be the faster is or means having more feeling, have more confidence on your car, jumping always the same, exiting from the corner like without losing the rear one time and the other time you're like, why my car is not doing that? Because your electronic is well setted. So don't do that kind of thing that you go on the track to practice and use always the same setting. That's completely wrong because you want to play with your setting. Setting is part of your setup and you want to make it the change to know what to do when you go to a new track. So imagine you go in the morning in that track that you drive always. Normally you have no traction. So working on your setting to have more traction, to generate traction. You can do it. It's easy. With the drive frequency and the throttle rate, you can do that. You can generate traction with that. Make it smoother. So you are not going to have wheel spin and you generate traction. And then during the day when the traction start to increase, so you can start to change your parameters and make it a little bit more aggressive and make it like adapted to your driving style. And when you go to a new track and you can have that kind of feeling and you can like suck the information from your car and you know exactly what to do because on the practice you change the parameters and you had that feeling. So I think it's really important to know perfectly your speedo, and Hobbywing on that is really amazing. Like the feeling you can have, the parameters you change, you can have immediately the feeling and the changes you do. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and follow my Facebook and YouTube channel. See you next time.